Good morning, third graders. We are going to get started on a new project today, and we are going to be talking about the element of design called space. And we'll be talking about a few other things such as texture, overlapping, and also the cool colors. So for today's portion of the project, we are going to be working with space. So space in art is when we talk about how close something is or how far away something is. So if I am really close in space or on a piece of paper, I look big. But if I go far away, do I look as big? No. So we do that on a piece of paper by making something look big that is close to us, but we also start it down by the bottom of the paper or lower on the paper so that we have room to make it look big. And then we can also make things that look far away by starting them up higher on the paper and making them smaller. So we will be doing that today, and we also will be overlapping today. Now I'm pretty sure you know what overlapping is, but just as a little review, overlapping is when you take an object, say this hand, and then you put something over top of it, this hand. Now I can see this entire hand, but I can only see the tips of my fingers, my thumb, and the lower part of my hand when I overlap it by this hand, okay? So we are going to be working on drawing pine trees today, and then we'll work on sharpieing and painting, and we will eventually be making birch trees that are going to be even closer to us. So in the foreground, those will be the biggest things on our paper, but we won't do that part today. So I will do the pine tree demonstration in just a second. Okay, so you all are going to have a big piece of paper and you're going to put it in the vertical or the up and down direction like this, and you are going to be making pine trees. Now I am going to say that you need to make at least 3, and at least one pine tree has to be overlapping another. So what I am going to do is start out, it doesn't matter what tree you make first, but I'm going to make my biggest tree first, which means it should come down the furthest. Now, for this project, we're going to, or for this portion, we're going to say that that's kind of like the bottom of the paper. I know it's not, but when we make our birch trees later, those are going to come down more. So, I'm going to go like this and make my big tree. Like that, okay? And then I try to do the exact same thing on the other side as best as I can. Like that. And then I put a tree trunk on it, okay? Now I said you have to make at least 3 trees. We want one that is in the foreground, so close, one that is in the middle ground, so a little bit further away, and one that is really far away, and that one will be tiny, okay? So maybe I want to make my middle ground, the one in the middle, that tree right here. So it's not going to come down as far on my paper, and it's not going to be as big. Now look at that. I have some overlapping. Right here, this overlapped that tree, just a tiny bit, okay? Now I need to make my third tree, which needs to be the one that's the furthest away, which means it will be highest up on the paper, and it will be the smallest. So technically I could be done right now, but I'm thinking it looks a little out of balance, like it looks like there's not too much, but more going on here than there is here. So I'm going to make another tree. And notice that I'm going over my little tree. So I have actually overlapped in 2 areas. Now this right here doesn't look good, because if this is overlapping this tree, I shouldn't see the little parts of that tree in here. So I have to erase just the parts of that tree that I shouldn't be seeing. So it now looks like that, okay? Now I'm pretty happy with how mine looks. I'm thinking I'm gonna make one more little one, just a teeny little guy here. And now I have to make a horizon line. So the line that divides the ground from the sky. And to do that, I need to make sure that the line is above the bottom of the tiniest tree that's the furthest away. Now your horizon line does not need to be straight. It can be a hill. It's kind of up to you, okay? So there's my horizon line. Now, at this point in time, you're going to get it okayed, and if I okay it, you are going to use a Sharpie to trace all of your pencil lines except for your horizon line. We do not want to Sharpie the horizon line on this project. Okay, so now that I'm done with that, I am going to take an eraser and erase all of my pencil lines except for the horizon line. I just want to leave the horizon line just pencil. And once I'm done with this part, I am ready to start painting the sky and the trees. However, unless we have quite a bit of class time left, we will do that part next time, okay? Now, a couple of little pointers. I kind of make it look easy when I draw trees, and it's not always that easy. Excuse the back of this, I was using a piece of scrap paper. When you draw your trees, if you're struggling, like I would for sure practice on the back first, but if you're struggling doing this, what you can do is very lightly, you have to do it lightly, but you can make a triangle, and then below that you're going to make another triangle that the tip of goes up into that triangle, and you just want to make sure that that triangle is a little bit bigger and goes out wider than the one above it. So every time I do it, I'm making it a little bit bigger and a little bit wider. And then what I can do is erase those middle parts, and there I have a tree, okay? So practice first. If this way is hard for you, try this way. But make sure you figure out how to do it before you start on your good side, okay? If you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you how to paint the sky as well as the pine trees. The pine trees are pretty self-explanatory. You'll just use some green, and it's okay if you want to, if you want to use a light green, and then add some of the dark green in as well. That's perfectly fine. You just want to really take your time and try really hard to stay in the lines of the pine tree, like this. Now, most pine trees are not this type of green. So what I will do is, like I said before, just go in with my darker green and kind of mix the two colors together. And I would just do one tree at a time, especially if you are mixing the colors, like the different varieties of green, because they're not going to mix very well if you allow the paint to dry. So what I'm kind of doing is just making an upside down V shape, which just allows it to look a little bit more branchy. like this. And you could go ahead and do that on the rest of the trees as well. And I have just realized that I am also out of brown paint, you guys. I'm sorry, I'm making this from home and I'm running low on paint. So pretend that I have painted those brown. Now what I'm going to do is move on to the sky. And for the sky, I would like you to either use the warm colors or the cool colors. Please do not mix them up. So you're either going to use green, blue, and purple together, or you're going to use reds, oranges, and yellows together. What you choose to do is completely up to you. I typically use the cool colors, but I think today I am going to use more of the warm colors just to change it up a little bit. Now again, you want to make sure that you really stir your paint up good. Another thing I want to show you, my yellow is really dirty. So what I'm going to do is squeeze the water out of my paintbrush, which I've already done, and I'm going to just kind of soak it up into my paintbrush. And you can do that multiple times. Stir it around in there to get the dirty to turn into a puddle. Squeeze the water out and soak the paint up. And that will clean your paint out for you. Okay, so I'm going to use yellow first. And what I want you to do is just brush water onto your paper first, not a ton of water. And you don't want to do this if your trees are still wet. Mine are still very wet. I'm just kind of going to try to go around them. But I'm going to just dab some of that yellow in. Then I'll dab some of my orangish color in. I'm also out of red paint. The magenta can be used along with the cool colors, and that's what I'm going to do rather than my red. Now my orange there is not very vibrant, so I'm going to stir it up a little bit more to just make it a little brighter. And then I'll get some of that magenta. Okay, and I would keep on doing that throughout the entire sky. So get it wet with water. Dab some of those colors in there. And move on until you are completely done painting the whole entire sky, okay? You're going to have to be very, very careful when you are next to the pine trees, because you don't want the pine trees to, I'm sorry, my dog is actually bumping the camera right now. You don't want the pine trees to get mixed in with the paint from the sky, okay? Now, my horizon line is all the way down here. I need that paint to come all the way down here as well. But my trees are still wet, that's why I'm not doing that right now. Okay, so I will do the birch tree portion of the demonstration next time. If you have any questions, please let me know.